Advocates who fight addiction are weighing in on the recently signed HALT Act. President Trump signed the measure into law, which now permanently classifies fentanyl-related substances as Schedule I drugs. Angela Kennecke is the founder of Emily's Hope, and her foundation promotes addiction education and resources for treatment, prevention, and recovery. It's named after her daughter, Emily, who died of accidental fentanyl poisoning 7 years ago at the age of 21. Kennecke is talking with me about how the HALT Act may help other families avoid tragedy. How big of a breakthrough is this in the fight against fentanyl?
Well, I think it's an important measure. I really do, because what it does is it makes the law against these fentanyl dealers permanent. So it classifies fentanyl and many of its analogs as a Schedule I drug. And that has been the case, actually, for years. It was just a temporary order that had to keep getting reinstated. So now this law, what it does is it makes it permanent. Permanently, the fentanyl is being classified as a Schedule I drug.
Because was it hard for law enforcement to stay ahead of the people putting this stuff out on the streets?
I mean, conceivably it could be, because they could just change the formula a little bit and then, could call it something else and maybe skirt the law. I mean, fortunately, there were temporary actions in place in the last several years, but it needed to be made permanent, and so we're grateful for that.
Yeah, and going forward, how do you think this will impact law enforcement officers or counselors, and how does it even fortify what you do with Emily's Hope?
Well, I think it's just one thing, right? There's the law enforcement aspect of the overdose and fentanyl poisoning crisis that we've seen in this country, but it's just one aspect of it. We also need to make sure that we're treating people with substance use disorder and that we're preventing it from happening in the first place. I think prevention is so important. So we have to see enough federal dollars going to support all of those programs. And I was also really glad to hear from various news reports that the CDC is going to release $140 million that was otherwise going to be cut, but it's going to be released for overdose prevention. So I think that's another step in the right direction. I think it's like a three-legged stool, right? We have to have the law enforcement aspect of it, but we also have to have the treatment and prevention. So as long as we're doing all of those things, we who work in this area are really glad to see that happening, because we do see overdose death rates going down. And as particularly in Wisconsin is one of a dozen states where overdose deaths are down by 35%, almost 35%. Those are some of the states with the higher numbers of decreases, which is what we want to see. However, 78,000 people still died in the last 1 year reporting, which is through February of 2025. And that's still a lot more than the year that my daughter died. So we still have work to do, but it is all a step in the right direction.
And finally, you host a weekly podcast called Grieving Out Loud. I listen to it often. And in it, you talk with people who may have lost their loved ones to addiction. And I have to wonder, I don't know if the mass public thinks about the grief attached to addiction, because and in this line of work, and as you've seen in your line of work, people see the overdose numbers and can dismiss the deaths as just addicts who deserved it. But part of your work is to erase that stigma and show that these people aren't just addicts who deserved it. They are people who were loved. Are those conversations still important to you? And is that still an uphill battle to show people that?
I think the stigma still definitely exists. On the podcast, Grieving Out Loud, we talk to so many parents and others involved in this advocacy work. But what we really are trying to do is let people know that these are real sons, daughters, aunts, uncles, cousins, siblings, and when there is one death, there is so much collateral damage. Everyone in the family and their friends, everyone suffers. And we've lost so much potential to the world by the number of young people who have died from this, that it's sickening and saddening to me. And that is one of the things that we're trying to bring out in the podcast. And so we would encourage anyone who has you don't have to have lost someone in this way. We talk about grief. We talk about substance use disorder. We talk about the crisis in the country, and we have real stories on. So I really think there's something for everybody in the podcast.
Oh, very grateful that you're doing what you're doing. Keep up the good work, Angela.
Thanks, Brady.
And you can learn more about the mission by visiting emilyshope.charity. The Department of Health in Wisconsin has an interactive map where you can see all of the locations for free naloxone, or Narcan, which is the opioid overdose reversal drug. You can look up Narcan near you by going to the link on your screen. That map is very handy because you can zoom into your area and see what's available.
She's doing such important work, turning her own tragedy into something good for other people.
Yeah, pretty inspiring.
Yeah,
So thank
very
you,
much
Angela.
so.